howdy, Joseph.
Hi, hello, how are you?
We heard the news,
We're quite enthused.
and the only thing to do
What should we do?
is strum this guitar
And sing to the stars.
and serenade you.
You survived, and that's true. I thought I'd send a little wish to you.
That is some mighty fine fiddling. But hey, let's pick it up.
All right.
That's more like it. Yeehaw!
Play it for Joseph.
All right, now where were we? Okay, you're still standing, and that's pretty great.
Joseph!
You know what? You kicked it butt. It's time to celebrate.
Joseph!
Ursel jingle jangle.
It's time to do-si-do. So grab yourself a partner and let's see it go.
Cause it's a
Jingle jangle here and a jingle jangle there. Jingle jangle inspiration everywhere. A jingle jangle here and a jingle jangle there.
a jingle jangle inspiration everywhere.
All right. That's how you tell it.
Joseph Jaffe is not famous. Me, Tom Arnold, I am very famous. I absolutely like, because it's very true. Like, I hadn't freaking heard of you until I sitting on a Friday night. This is how bad my life is. Listen, fucker, good luck. Good luck with your rebranding. Like anybody knew what the name was before. What was the name? Okay, who gives a shit? That's a good name because it's got your name in it. You can pretend you're humble. You say, I'm not famous. And, which you aren't. So you're just not being anyway, but I hope you get famous doing this. Good luck to you.
But he's officially... Well, Peter, you might be the first person on this planet that has ever shut me up for this long. Good old Heraclitus, I tell you, that wild and crazy guy.
If I came to you and I gave you $10,000 for 20% of the company.
Deal.
Yeah.
So, is that a verbal?
Younger than us, sorry to say, Joseph.
What, younger than 20?
Joe, we're just trying to help you because clearly you've lost control of the conversation.
I never, you know what, with all due respect, I never had control of the situation. Doesn't mean I'm overgone. What doesn't kill me makes you stronger.
Look at you! You are insane!
How did I do that?
You're insane! You're insane!
Well, happy Monday to you. It is August 15th, and wow, we're almost, no, I think we're kind of nestled comfortably between the bosoms of July and September. We of Q3. I just wanted to say the word nestle, but here we are. We're in the third quarter, and I hope it is going well for you. These are tough times. These are challenging times, but you can get through them with a little bit of hope, positivity, optimism, and Chris Heuer, who is my guest today. I refer to Chris as a dreamer, and the world needs more dreamers. The world needs more people that can dream it. If you dream it, you can do it. Yeah, if you dream it, you can do it. That's what that dreamer Walt once said. Bez is here, and he said, happy Monday, Joseph. Happy Monday to you, Bez. Bez and I hang out every morning in the Discord server. It sounds weird, but it isn't. We hang out in discord.gg/Alpha Collective. We have virtual coffee Monday through Friday, and we get inspired. Here is my real coffee as opposed to my virtual coffee, although I have had virtual coffee in the virtual world of Second Life many moons ago. Bez says, is that Mr. Rogers music in the background? No, it's meant to be jazz. I don't know what it is. I'm not much of a jazz person. Maybe Lubna's a jazz person. Not really sure, but I don't know. It's it's a little bit of, isn't it salsa-y or something like that? Makes me just want to. Shall we move on with the show? I think we shall. I think we should. I think we will. I want to talk to you about Alpha Collective, I have some alpha for you, and I'm going to show you a little image over here. Now, for those of you that are following the trials and tribulations of Alpha Collective, you will know that, in fact, the paid membership pass is magenta, but this one is blue. Why is this one blue? I'm about to tell you why this one is blue. I'm about to give you some serious alpha. And the alpha is this. We are going to be launching a free mint to supplement the paid version of Alpha Collective. This will, in fact, be one of the first, if not the first, free mints for a B2B community. Plus, it will be one of the first, if not the first, free mints with actual utility. And it will be one of the first, if not the first, free mints for a B2B community that, in fact, does something else, which is implement and introduce a freemium model in Web3. So the free version will allow you to have limited access, but access nonetheless. And the paid version obviously will give you full access. Now, let me show you three. In fact, I will disappear and tell you 3 ways that you can not only take advantage of the free mint. There will be a maximum of 1 free mint per wallet. I'm not going to tell you the day or the time that the free mint will launch right now. But if you want to be the first or amongst the first, you can do one of 3 things, which is sign up for email at alphacollective.xyz, follow Alpha Gonna Make It, Alpha GMI on Twitter, and join the Discord, discord.gg/Alpha Collective. And maybe you'll even join us for coffee Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. One person will win a full pass, which is currently selling at $2,500 USD via fiat or credit card, or 1 ETH via crypto. So I'm super excited, really excited to share this with you, the members of this beautiful, expanding community ecosystem connected to me and the JAFFE coin. This is why, if you look at that QR code, you will right now, if you are a fan, which means you have 10 JAFFE coin, you have verified in the Discord server, you're getting yourself some JAFFE coin right now. I want you to realize that this is an example of what I call, Chris will remember it very well, use new marketing to prove new marketing. This is what's called walking the talk. This is what's called, you can talk about change or you can be the change. You can live the change. You can experiment. You can put it out there. You can fail again and again and again, or you can succeed absolutely wildly. So I'm integrating my own cryptocurrency, my own creator coin into the show, figuring out how to reward people that are watching live, recognize and reward you, because without you, this show wouldn't exist. And now with Alpha Collective, with a B2B utility-driven project, actually launch something and see how a free mint is going to work. Lubna says she loves blue, and winner. Yeah, everyone's a winner at the moment. You just won some JAFFE coin, plus you can win through a free mint, or you can get a full membership pass by just being able to engage. So I hope that this gives you some incentive. I hope you are intrigued. And I want to let you know as well that these coffees are, they're just amazing. I don't take my word for it. I'm getting verklempt. Bez is there every day. Lubna is there many days. We really are doing some incredible things, which is just to, get your day started off on the front foot, the right way, with hope, positivity, optimism, motivation. Today we called it Manifest or Motivation Monday. But the other thing we're doing is we are collective sourcing a book, my new book, Forever Changed, How a Global Pandemic Changed My Direction, My Purpose, and My Life. It's unbelievable. I've written 50,000 words in just 3 weeks. I am so motivated. In fact, I can share this with you as well. This is the cover to the book. The cover was designed by Ali Sabet, who's been a guest on the show. And he designed this. He was inspired by it. It's also a video as well. We may very well NFT the actual cover. It's just, there are no limits when it comes to creativity and when it comes to possibilities. Please believe that. Please believe that in this beautiful world, anything is possible if you use your imagination, if you lead with heart, and if you dream, if you dare to dream. All right. So now we are going to move to our seated soliloquy. And the seated soliloquy today is called Scratch Off. So actually, this is what we discussed in Collective Cafe this morning. We discussed an idea that actually I heard in a clubhouse room earlier in the day. Can you see how ideas, you plant something, it grows, it gets passed on, it gains momentum. And this whole idea, why I called it Scratch Off, was what would happen every day if you could start from scratch? Every single day. If you could begin anew, if you could begin fresh, without baggage, without legacy, without all the things that hold us back. What if there was a blank slate, a blank canvas, a clean slate? I just mixed the two of them up. A blue ocean strategy allowing you to begin again. Now, I am not talking about Groundhog Day. In fact, this is the opposite of Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day is same shit, different day. Groundhog Day is the same stuff happening over and over again. And as we know, insanity is the definition of insanity. I'm like totally muddled. Dyslexia rules KO. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So I actually said, what if the daily grind was replaced with the daily grow? What if instead of every day continuing monotonously, mediocrely like the day before, what if every single day you could grow, you could gain? That would be like scratching off and winning the lottery, wouldn't it? And Angus Nelson is here. He says, "What's up, Joseph? Great to see your cheery face. How can I not be cheery when I know that you are watching, Angus?" So this is something we discussed this morning. It's something that I discuss now, and who knows, we might just find it in the book. But now, enough about me. Let's focus on the very famous Chris Heuer. And this man's bio, let me tell you, is, I believe, like poetry. He writes really well. He should write a book. Chris Heuer sees things before they exist, not dead people. That was another movie. Standing in multiple simultaneous futures and recognizing flows of energy by the patterns they form. Oh, that's magnificent. He has failed multiple startups, dozens, yet he is still a serial entrepreneur who believes we can shape the world instead of being shaped by it. Over the years, he has, in his words, been in some really strange rooms. More recently, he has been developing new organizational designs to facilitate co-ownership, co-creation, and co-elevation with the intent to more fairly distribute the value a team of organization generate with those who co-created it. Or, as he simply says, value in and value out should be in greater harmony. It sounds like my exploits to lose weight, not exploitative of humans and society for the profit and power of an exploitative few. He is a poet, and I think he knows it. Let's welcome him, Mr. Chris Heuer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Joseph. It's such a pleasure to be here. And of course, you are a living example of this stuff I've been trying to understand more and trying to put in the world myself through actually experiments and execution. So
I'm a
great
living
to see what you're doing.
I'm a living example of being not famous. I'm a living example of failing. Could you be more specific?
Well, so I started looking more closely into Web3 back in the fall, about the same time everyone else did, to be honest. And I discovered this little thing called a DAO. And I had realized that not only was it kind of the thing that this social media club that we created now 16 years ago would have been if it was alive today and we had birthed it today, but also that it represented a deeper concept. I didn't even realize this was happening, but I had been talking about pre-pandemic that the 2020s would be the age of the guild, the coming together of individuals to develop themselves, to develop and create value, and to stand for something more in the world together. And so that had already been happening inside the DAO and Web3 world, and I just didn't even connect to it because that's not the places I was hanging out online. So anyways, lots to talk about there, and I'll leave it at that for now.
I'd like to ask you a question because we're not hearing that word guild much, and I love the word, and I certainly have ideas in terms of what it is. I've gone with the word collective. I kind of almost wish I could go with guild at the moment. Maybe I will. But can you talk a little bit? How is a guild in Web3 terminology? How is it different, or is it not different to a DAO, a community, a mastermind, a conference, an association? Where does it fit into the broader ecosystem?
Well, that's a really good question. And, at its essence, those are many of the same things, right? And that's why we talk about communities so much. And as we also discovered, talking about communities with those people responsible for the balance sheets of large public organizations and other large financial flows, that word is not something that's meaningful to them, right? But when we get to collectives and co-ops and there's this company, Crisp, that has a zero profit organizational structure over in Sweden. There's a whole bunch of different ways we can define it, and that we bring it to life through our own values and action. And so there are different rituals, there are different processes, and there are different structures. The association is typically this membership thing. I think a collective, a co-op, and a guild are much closer to one another. But the guild itself has slightly different elements in terms of how we actually engage with each other. It's a form of membership that is pledging, not just belonging. And that pledge is what makes that difference. That pledge to actually, feel that deeper sense of teamwork, that sense of belonging, that sense of connectivity that goes beyond just the topic matter. It deals with the empathy we have for each other as human beings. And when we really start looking at a guild, that's where I think we see this concept of co-elevation that Keith Ferrazzi first kind of put out there coming into the fold.
Okay, so we're going to come back to that other meaty, beautiful word, which is co-elevation, because, I'm a word guy, so I like to kind of think, well, co-elevation as opposed to elevation, but how do you define elevation? But before we do that, I'm just going to take a little step back. And if you've watched the show, you have a good idea what's coming. This is the part where we get to know the real Chris Heuer and attempt to embarrass you or embarrass myself. And so the first thing we learned about you is that you've had several meaningful personal conversations with this guy named Joseph. I'm not sure if maybe it's a different Joseph in the back of cabs and Ubers in different cities around the world. So is this the guild version of taxi cab confessions? And are you prepared to share one of these deep and dark confessions?
Well, one of the things that happens, Joseph and I were fortunate to meet over the years, speaking at various conferences and being a part of the whole explosion of Web 2.0 and social media. To an extent, I feel I call a lot of people brother, because I feel that, and sister, and more than that, and uncle and auntie and all that other stuff, because I feel that familiar sort of label or recognition describes the intention and energy that I feel towards others. And it's a great place to start and build the basis of the relationship. But I particularly remember, I think it was Blog World, where we took the cab from seeing Data from Star Trek over to some golf course across town. And, you know, we were just, again, even though we don't see each other, we don't talk every month, or sometimes, like now, the last time I saw you and we spoke directly was South by Southwest in Orange. But it feels like yesterday. And so the connectivity, once it's established there in person, and we have that chance to actually talk about life and pains and struggles and, you know, the stuff we're going through and being real with each other. You know, I just wanted to kind of call back to that, because we also have done that, I believe, in Paris at a Le Web or something. We've done that in New York. Gosh, probably Seattle.
It was actually CES. We met Geordie LaForge and Data. But Brent Spiner, by the way, is. Do you know how old he is?
No idea.
I think he's about 73 years old.
Holy cow!
You know, but he is an android, so you know it's okay.
No, he's a youngling. He's a youngling. Yeah.
It's so great when you have a laugh track. I mean, when you have a live studio audience. But yeah, we have, and you know, I would tell you my definition of a friendship is, you first of all, it's not high maintenance, where you have to work and work and work and grind, and one gives the other, you know, a guilt, not a guilt, but a guilt complex for, you know, what have you done for me lately? And to me, a friendship is one where years can go by, sometimes even a decade, and you just pick it up where it left off, as if you were, you know, as if nothing had changed, as if you saw each other the day before. And so it's funny. I think you and I have always been on parallel tracks, sometimes like DNA strands, right? Going like this, but for the most part, always swimming with the same ideals, whether it's conscious capitalism or you know, community capitalism. So now you know what we actually get up to in the back of cabs. Nothing nefarious. But what else did we learn from and about you? Well, this one is, I'll tell you, and I'm not gonna, you know, I'm just gonna say, you said you loving.
How do you have time to do all this stuff, man?
This is a real photo. What are you talking about? You know, I was hanging out in the metaverse. You love supernatural VR, but you haven't managed to make it a habit yet. So I'm going to ask you something as well. As I don't know what supernatural VR is, and one of the things I've tried to do, you know, with my forever changed approach is admit when I don't know something, rather than fake it till I make it, rather than try and, you know, and lie to people. So I don't know what it is. What is supernatural VR?
So, you know, I went ahead and bought I bought a Vive a long time ago, and I started teaching myself Unity because, well, I actually had done one of the first QuickTime VR projects ever back in the mid 90s, when we did a 360 CD-ROM of this hotel down on South Beach called the Park Central. And somehow I talked them into letting us do this pilot project where we actually went to the lobby, the pool, the rooms. This is before, obviously, the 3D views from Matterport and all that other stuff were widely available. And in fact, it took us 3 weeks just to shoot the principal photography and make the 3D nodes to make it work in an Apple QuickTime technology. But anyways, so I've been into this stuff for a while. So I bought Vive early and I bought Quest. I know a lot of people had problems with it because of Facebook and what they do with the data. I'm less concerned about all of that. But one of the great things that VR is actually good for me, because I'm fortunate not to get dizzy or sick or whatever, like a lot of people, is to actually do my workouts in VR. And, you know, there's been a bunch of them over the years, but Supernatural became like the best of the best. They've got great coaches. And there's something for me. I cannot go to a fitness class and be there with all these other people. I mean, I do it for yoga because you kind of have to, and it's slow and intentional, but I'm not into the classes stuff, you know, jazzercise and whatever. But inside of VR, having this virtual human at a really good quality video, great audio tracks, and really great workout mechanics on how it works. Sometimes at the end, I can't even lift up my arms. So I'm a big fan of workouts in VR if you can stand the time and wear the headset and do it. And I'm looking forward to the Apple Glass where I don't have to wear 2 pounds on my head, but instead, it'll hopefully all be in here.
And you're looking pretty good, by the way. I must just say, have you been working out?
No, man, I'm just happy you invited me here, and I feel great.
Yeah, and speaking of which, it's funny because we saw each other at South by Southwest. We were at some random function where like you just waltz into probably uninvited, and the next thing I know, I'm at the bar. It's like, I don't know, probably 11 a.m. in the morning. Yeah. And it's a full bar, and I'm like, I guess I'll have a martini. So I'm sitting there drinking my martini. You and I are hanging out, catching up, and we spoke about being on the show. And then suddenly I realized that a few weeks ago or a couple of weeks ago, and I said, Chris, what's going on? And you're like, I thought you just, like lost interest in me. I'm like, never. I could never lose interest in you. Especially now that I know that you're hanging out and speed skating, in some. So there is one thing left about you that the world needs to know. And that is that you try to make people laugh a lot, and you fail a lot, and you keep trying to see the joy in everyday life. This to me describes you to a T, combined with the fact that I call you a dreamer. Talk about the power of laughter, the power of humor, even the power of attempted humor, and what it means to keep trying. Because again, the words are important. When you say, I keep trying to see the joy in everyday life, it means sometimes you have to dig a little bit deeper. You got to go into those reserves in order to kind of turn those lemons into lemonade.
Yeah. I'm going to hit that last one first, and hopefully I might need you to bring me back to the first bits of it. But over the last 2 years or so, I've been working with Michael Moon, who's been a mentor and friend for a long time. And one of the things that I've really learned in the last year is that that sort of joy, that happiness, love, we can talk about in terms of chemicals as well as, relationship love and the different ways people look at it. But what I recognize is that we have to generate that joy. We have to generate that certainty. And that's kind of what I've forgotten. I've been public about going through depressions and dealing with ADD and all sorts of other stuff. Again, I failed a lot of companies. The first one, I went into several dozen bottles of Absolute for a month, kind of in the resilient to come out of before I was able to bounce back. And resilience is harder as we get older, particularly as I look back and go, there's literally 25, 28 things that I actually tried and failed. And then there's, another couple hundred that I didn't even try. So anyways, bring me back to the question again, if you could. It was about how do we look at coming back? Is that probably the better way of saying it?
You think I have any idea what we're talking about? No, I do. I mean, well, first of all, just before we were talking about humor, we were talking about laughing.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah. But I have to tell you that you said two things that themselves could be the rest of our entire conversation today. You spoke about generating joy, which implies work, effort, and then you also spoke about the idea that resilience. I'd never heard this before. Resilience gets harder as you get older. I would have thought the opposite were true, that you became more, battle tested, and you were better at it as you got older. So that was an interesting kind of like thought starter for me.
Okay. So we can go on that stuff. Yeah, absolutely. So look, there are parts of resilience to get better. I don't crawl into a bottle when I fail anymore like that. There's a whole other set of circumstances with my first startup, right? So that was just a weird time. And by the way, I think I was 26 and a half or something when that happened, right? So
and now you're 27, right? Now you're 27.
I'm 50. I'm 53 in about 2 weeks. So anyway, so literally half of my life ago was my first failed startup. And I had already been running that for a couple of years when we got to that point. But again, back to the other part, the resilience. So look, there are parts of it that gets easier in terms of like learning how to let go and everything else. I have a couple of fatal flaws, which I really discovered through a wonderful book by Don Miguel Ruiz called The Four Agreements. The 4 agreements: be impeccable with your word, don't take things personally, don't make assumptions, always do your best. And I've done really well with 3 out of 4 of those. Some days I don't feel like doing my best. That's a different thing. You still got to show up and be there 100%, 110% when you can. But when you care, it's really hard not to take things personally. When you've got a vision that you're trying to put out in the world for how things could be better for more people, and like with me, I see it better than I can articulate it. So I see these things, and language doesn't often exist to even describe what I'm talking about. You know, and then one of the things, as we were talking about before with this phrase, the guild, you know, I see the guild as being like the big thing, but everyone else out there says, no, no one understands it. That's really bad marketing. You got to call it a co-op or a collective or something else. And so literally I was dissuaded from calling the startup we did at the beginning of the pandemic remotely.global. Like everyone's like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. All of my friends and advisors and co-founders. And I look back and I said, fuck, I should have done it. But anyways, now I'm off topic again. So
no, you're not. You're not. I'll keep you where we are as well. Again, you said something else that's very profound to me. You said, I see it easier or better than I can articulate it. I'm in a way the same way. It's being able to go from to see the future or to see the things that could be and ask why not, and then figure out how to implement and execute. And what you realize is the world has been created to actually slow down and hinder execution, if you think about it.
Yeah. Well, psychological safety is a component of it because it's unsafe. The innate human desire for consistency, but its need for thrilling, excitement, and change. You know, these paradoxes of our own basic psychology. And really, it's the understanding of it on the personal and interpersonal level, as well as at system scale or at global scale, right? So, but to your point, you know, it's very simple somehow. My mom and my dad, and I didn't know my dad growing up, but my mom had cerebral palsy and, you know, was kind of an outcast, and she couldn't get a job because of the handicap at the time, you know, in the 70s and all that. But she was the first person with a so-called disability to graduate from public high school in Chicago.
Wow.
And so she just had a really can-do attitude. And I was very fortunate to have this inspirational force in my life, as difficult as it was sometimes, to have faith in me. And so I realized that's like one of the building blocks of all of this stuff. The fact that she believed I could do anything made me believe it. And not everyone has that sort of gift in their lives, different family situations, socializations growing up. And then more recently, you may have seen the reporting that less privileged or lower income kids who grow up around people of means and money tend to do better off. Well, that's certainly true with me because I was very fortunate to go to one of the best high schools in Florida, Miami Palmetto, where there was doctors and lawyers' sons and everyone else, and not get over to the other one, which was, if I was literally 3 houses down the street from where we lived when I was in Miami, I would have gone to like the 400th ranked high school in the state instead of the 5th. Anyways, again, I've been in some strange rooms, but I've been truly, as the cup says, blessed.
You know, I was thinking, funnily enough, this idea of faith. I think you're going to agree with this statement. It almost sounds, I'm wondering if it's a bit controversial, but I was thinking, a lot of people say, I have faith in you. You know, I'm putting my, I have faith in you. And I was thinking, you know, other than probably a parent, you know, family, like literally family, blood, everyone else needs to put up or shut up. And what I mean by that is, for someone to say, I have faith in you, well, then show the faith, prove the faith. Don't just say it. It's easy to be able to say, hey, Chris, you're going to make it. I have faith in you. It's much harder to say, what can I do with you, for you, to you? How can I help? And I was thinking, you know, we need to talk is cheap, you know, at the end of the day. And, you know, my mom, for example, has unconditional faith in me. Faith can be unconditional when it is truly a loved one that you are either bonded to through blood or marriage. But other than that, shut the fuck up, basically, and prove it. Because, as I was saying to you, the world needs more dreamers, and the world needs more people like you. This is the quote that I found for you. A dream you dream alone is only a dream. A dream you dream together is reality.
Beautiful.
And this was said by John Lennon. So I thought I would share that with you, because I think this wasn't the segue I thought of, but this idea of we can dream together and we can have faith together. The key is together, not one directional, one to many, or lip service.
Well, that's the great entry into co-elevation. And, for a good part of my life, I've been, and on stage, thankfully, so it's kind of cited over the last 20 years, I've been talking about this idea that if you're better off, I'm better off. And that's really kind of the essence of this co-elevation thing. There's a lot of other elements to talk about there in terms of the precondition. There's an interesting paradox in it that I haven't quite navigated fully, but I'm still continuing to read all the research. And someone else wrote a book on co-elevation more recently. But this idea that we have to have a belief that we are going to be co-elevated before it can actually happen. And that sort of belief and mindset puts forward an intention. And then if we have that alignment and agreement on that, our energies resonate better, and the production of value that comes from our time together is enriched by it. And so it also comes down to a fact that, our industrial models no longer really serve us in a large section of the economy. We know we went from the industrial economy to the information age, to the service economy in about the 70s, and then really into the information age in the late 80s, mid 90s. And you could argue even that we went to the knowledge economy at that point. Well, to me, there's one thing beyond that, and that's where we're headed now. And that's a big part of what co-elevation embodies, is this idea of a wisdom economy, about the idea of knowledge applied or co-created with compassion and concern for our common humanity, not just for the transactional profit.
Wisdom economy is a great way to articulate it. And let's go back to co-elevation and co-ownership. If I was paraphrasing, or not even reframing, just kind of paraphrasing, co-elevation would be the rising tide floats all boats.
Correct.
And of course, this idea of together. Co-ownership for me, when I'm asked to give my definition of Web3, I just say it's very easy. Shared ownership, shared reward. The end. That's what it is. That's what it is. It's this idea of,
great.
Fanzo says we is greater than me. It is actually a business model for we. And so I love, though, co-elevation sounds a lot better than co-rising tide floats or boatsization, right?
Yes. And by the way, quick hat tip to Stephen Gans. He's a member of one of our weekly masterminds called Waymakers, who actually introduced that concept to me and opened the door tremendously for what I'm now working on.
Well, you can always invite him on the show. And look who's here. The Ken Young is here. Said, Chris, awesome to hear you moving forward with educating us all on the co-ownership economy.
Thanks, Ken.
So yeah, good to see Ken is watching the show too. He's not coming for me. He's coming for the very famous Chris Heuer.
Yeah, totally unfamous like you. Actually, less famous than you, as you know. No one knows about me. But that's okay, because you know about me and we're friends. So that's great.
Yet. That's the point, right? We were using that beautiful Vince Lombardi quote. In all my days, I never lost a single game. I just ran out of time.
Love that.
Yeah, I mean, it truly is real. And people need to remember that. Ken said, say that 3 times fast. Cold tides rise all boats, cold tides rise all boats, cold tides rise all boats. And ladies and gentlemen, we will timestamp that. We now have something for the new intro. Thanks to Ken, who will be on it as well. But yeah, I mean, the key is yet. What does yet mean? Yet means timing and also luck. And I've been really spending a lot of time on that, Chris. luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. No one is prepared more and harder than you. And so opportunity is all around us. And I think Web3, I've been saying, tell me if you believe the same, that everything that I've done has led to this moment, because I actually think this is the business model that we've been chasing, the elusive business model that we have been, trying to create without understanding what it is or how it would work.
Yeah, well, I look at so my first company was an interactive agency and local content network. We built virtual community network. I actually had a 3-letter domain, vcn.net back in the day. And that was very much in that same spirit, right? So anyways, as we start looking at this now, the idea that we have new mechanisms and new mindsets is really what's different. And back then, I was still teaching people how to click on links. I mean, I had some pretty famous clients on South Beach in Miami who, and basically I was just trying to explain to them, yeah, you click here and you're retrieving a page off of a server in China. And whoa, what is that? And then of course, at that time, no one was ready to buy anything online, but over time, we found it. And so I don't know if this is the equivalent of what the old consulting adage around the 100th monkey story is. But it's just a matter of these things need to emerge. We need to become comfortable with it. We need to see real utility in it. And more than anything else, we need to see people like us doing it. And so there's a lot more to talk about in applying some of this stuff to Web3 because there's a lot of problems there, most of which, as we found out in the Web 3.1 Leadership Summit and Unconference I hosted back in March, the underlying infrastructure is not really ready yet. The UX isn't ready. It's way too complicated. There's too much room for fraud and so many other things. But it is the technology. And I've seen this with blockchain since I first started working with Hyperledger while I was back at Deloitte some 12 years ago now, 10, 11 years ago now. It is going to get there. These concepts are going to reach tipping points at which they become more widespread. But what it takes a Roger Bannister. It takes somebody to break that 4-minute mile barrier. And so, as you were saying, before I jumped on with you, you're putting the marketing into the marketing to show how this might work. And that's what it requires. And somehow I've become stupid enough to not think of failure. Well, maybe it's bright enough, but I try to be more humble. To not think of failure as such a negative, despite all the emotional pain of actually going through it, because I care. And I want to see it successful and I want it to work for other people. And more than anything, I want people to understand, as you were saying again at the beginning of the show, anything is possible. We just need to dream it and we need to put our energy behind it to manifest it.
Man, listen, I gotta make an uncool transition as my dog barks, but it's worth it.
That's not uncool, man. You're prepped. You got stuff right there on your side.
No. I normally so basically what I do in a situation, but I needed that mic drop moment just to sit a little bit for people to take it in. So normally what I would do is I cheat. I do things like that, and people don't see me actually, doing that. But after what you just said, you get, my friend. I mean, that really was beautiful. And you know what? I love the Roger Bannister. I love, for me, when I look at that, I see and I want to see, and I want to stick my neck out, and I want to be him, or I want to be like him, or I want to be one of him, because the idea is, if it works for me, it can work for you. If I can be successful, you can be successful. Correct. If you can be successful, I can be successful. And ultimately, we can all be successful because we will not leave people behind. Yeah. We will take everyone with us. And that has always been, I know, your ethos and mine.
Yeah, what that takes is getting beyond a scarcity mindset. And to that extent, I've been blessed And, you know, while my mother had cerebral palsy and we grew up on Social Security and I lived with my grandparents and my mom and had humble beginnings at that, you know, I believed that there could be more. And I started working towards it and trying to make that a reality in the world. And, you know, it either happens or it doesn't. But when you really have that faith and you have that sort of mindset, you're able to embrace these new opportunities and new possibilities. And what I recognized, I went on a vision quest, rite of passage, with a small group, but going solo in the Mojave Owl's Head Canyon, Mojave Desert Owl's Head Canyon. And a big part of that was this understanding of what I had ended up writing afterwards called the noble pursuit. That most everyone in the world has some noble pursuit in their lives to go after. So why don't more people do it? And the first one is they don't believe it's possible. They don't have the faith. They don't have the inspiration. They don't have that mother like I did, despite all the challenges, believing in me, telling me I could do anything and putting me and fighting for me to get me into that 4th or 6th grade gifted program that reshaped my life by playing games instead of sitting around reading books, you know. And after that inspiration and that sort of faith that this might be possible, then what you need to know is how to actually go about doing it. What have other people done to be successful in different situations? So we need to reorganize protocols and knowledge. And as I'm talking about now, more importantly, the wisdom of how do we add ESG and so much more into this beyond just the protocols, methods, and measures and other parts we're looking at. And then finally, if we have, oh gosh, am I going to screw this up? If we have belief that it's possible, if we have knowledge that it's there, what we need is we need people, ideally now as I'm looking at it, a guild, to support us in actually making that a reality, to be there emotionally as much as for the activities that need to be accomplished. And so to get to that is a really hard path. And I just believe that, you know, if we can put it out there and show people, get inspired, you know, find out what it is that other people have been doing to get to similar outcomes or similar impacts, as the case might be. And then find a group of people to support you with the energy, whether you call that a community, a co-op, a collective, or a guild, or anything else. That's immaterial. These labels, you know, the labels aren't real. It's sort of like that old adage about if you look at a map, you know, those lines aren't there in the world, right? That's our representation of it. So what's real is what's underneath it. And that's where this idea of co-elevation really excites me, because that is the embodiment of what I've been trying to talk about. And I just discovered it like literally 6 months ago.
Are you trying to get another air horn from me? Because I feel like you're pandering to the air horn right now.
No, man, streaming consciousness, my friend.
Let me pick up that idea. And I was thinking, you know, especially when it came to what you were saying about the guild, we need to trust our instincts and our guts. And I was thinking, you know, it's almost this idea of from I told you so to I told you so, meaning that we all need to live our lives where we can say to people, I told you so, and risk in return them saying to us, I told you so. So it's almost like a kind of a death match, a game of chicken, if you will, of I told you so's. Who's gonna I told you so first? And that's what we need. We need to be able to you know, trust. That's the bad kind of regret, the regret of inaction, as Dan Pink would call it, which is, how many times do we look back and go, oh, I should have just trusted myself and my gut? So call it a damn guild.
Yes. Well, that's a part of what we're doing. And you know, I'm certainly having a chapter on my view of what a guild is structured like and what activities it engages in the book. And whether that's a chapter, a section, or more, we haven't determined yet. But, you know, putting out these new organizational concepts, how they might work, how they could work, and letting go of everything that's been before us. You know, just because this is the way things are doesn't mean it's the way it's always going to be. And it certainly doesn't mean this is the way things should be, because a lot of the socioeconomic system we have, while big thinkers, Adam Smith and so many others have added to it and defined it and shaped it, that doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it the most efficient. That doesn't make it good for me or for you. What we can see now in these last throes of capitalism around the world, at least industrialized capitalism as we've known it, it is based largely on exploitation. It is largely based on power and the ability to negotiate labor at lower costs without concern for what the real value of the contribution is. And to be honest and fair, it's really hard to value the contribution of an administrative assistant who's not a principal designing the code, designing the logo and the brand and creating the brand narrative and all these other things that we can really see. How do you value that besides by the hour? And so that's one of the issues I'm struggling with right now and trying to solve. So it's not so much that I'm in love with this idea and this vision of how I see it right now. I'm in love with the idea that we can figure out a new way to do it together that would be more equitable, that will be really simply fair.
I mean, beautifully said. And I love how you're getting into something that again, I am seeing it, I'm feeling it, I'm believing it, that we are actually entering, I call it the evolution of capitalism. And I'm very clear to tell people, and I actually do this as a signal, very intent to say, well, I'm not a socialist. I would never be a socialist. That may not be entirely true. I mean, I'm not, but I believe in some of the principles, but I am a capitalist above all. And so by pushing back and saying, hell no, socialism, but the evolution of capitalism, that interests me. And so I call it community capitalism. You call it conscious human capitalism. Actually, other people call it conscious capitalism. You're
Correct.
calling it human capitalism. You put the two together. And as I've said many times on the show, the new model is moving from, the old model was a pie, a zero-sum gain. The new model is a flame. The idea that it's not zero-sum, that together we can actually, I can light your flame and together our flames burn brighter.
Yeah. That's really lovely, Joseph. I like that a lot.
I got that actually from Tamsin Webster, and I've been building on it as well, because I think it's I think, but you also said something else, Chris, which is, and it's, it's not just a throwaway line. You spoke about as capitalism enters its last day, it's almost like you're seeing the writing of the wall. I worked with a large beer company, and I won't mention names, AB InBev, but they actually I'm just saying they actually had a whole philosophy of what they called explore or exploit. And they didn't mean it in that way, but the idea was explore was blue ocean discovery, invent, imagine, test and learn, and exploit is efficiencies, leverage those efficiencies, cost cut, and squeeze out the value. And that's not a bad thing or an evil thing. It just is a corporate thing. So they actually even use the word explore or exploit. We have to move completely away from exploit. And I'm not just saying we have to move completely to explore, but it's just capitalism, for it to survive, it must evolve.
Yes. Well, and the big part of evolving it, and again, this is where I land in thinking of it as the wisdom economy beyond the information and knowledge economy, is just an understanding that it works better. Now, it doesn't work better to put more wealth in the hands of 2 to 3 people, but it works better for the overall value it creates for society. And again, I've been working on these concepts for I first learned about co-ops and time banks in 1994. So that kind of turned me into, different possibilities for organizations and how they work and different ways to value our time. And then, of course, Joseph, with Crayon and all the agencies, I'm sure you explored value-based pricing and how do we actually value the impact. So I see that as something that'll be much more on the rise, recognizing that those relationships with great agencies are truly partnerships. They're not just service. They're not just labor purchases. They're partnerships. And when you have that sense of co-ownership, that we're in it together, that we can either win or lose, and whatever we do, we're going to put our best forward, and we're going to try to figure out the best way we can work together. That like is the essence that changes it. But at the end of the day, where is all that value going? And if we get beyond a scarcity mentality and we get to the era of abundance, we can start looking at it and collect what I've been talking about for literally 20 years as a reasonable profit. But that reasonable profit
reasonable and fair.
And fair.
You
And
know,
in fact, there's been examples of this over the years, right? Where sometimes, and they're not all the way there, right? But the idea that, like, the sticker price, the dealer cost, the profit the car dealer should be making on you if you do the work to learn it.
now, I just want to say, as you were talking, I was thinking, Web3 is the ultimate value-based pricing, right? Web3 is the ultimate value-based pricing because of the secondary market, because of the floor. I mean, we can move beyond whether it's rugging and manipulation, but at its core, in its purest, that's what it is. That's
if everyone was a fair, transparent, honest actor with integrity, yes. And that's what we're missing right now, right? Yeah. So we need more of those people to start adopting.
Might fly out of my butt, as Wayne would say, or maybe it was Garth. Now, Chris, I want to make sure that we have time to just let people know some of the things you're up to. But normally we would present this on Wellness Wednesday, but Whitney Lauritsen, who is our wellness expert, but because there's no show this Wednesday, I wanted to play hers now, and I got a feeling, I never watched them in advance, but I got a feeling maybe it might tie into everything we've been discussing. So let's watch.
This is the 4th mini episode as part of a series I've been doing, summarizing some of the key takeaways I had from a 7-day trip to Costa Rica during a 6-day retreat. And on the 4th day of this retreat, in my journal, I wrote down one small semi-sentence. It's not a full sentence, but it was a phrase, basically. And it's interesting because each day of the retreat, I wrote a lot of details, but on this specific day, that one phrase in my journal just says, proud of myself. I really felt like it was important for me to acknowledge that. Sometimes we don't notice the things that we're doing really well. We focus so much. We can be so hard on ourselves. We can prioritize improving without acknowledging what we've accomplished, our small wins, our gratitude for ourselves. And I believe on that day, I felt proud of myself because I had to step away from some things that I wanted to do, similar to in last week's episode of this series. I mentioned how important it was to set boundaries and prioritize yourself, even if it means missing out. And on the 4th day of the retreat, I had to miss out on something in order to prioritize myself. And I believe that's what brought me a lot of pride. But it's helpful right now in this moment as I'm sharing this with you. What if we both thought about what's one thing we can be proud of ourselves right now? Whether it's today or the past week, whatever time frame you would like. Can you think of one thing that you're proud of?
Yeah, I'm proud of you, Chris.
Well, thank you, my brother.
More importantly, are you proud of you?
No. And I should be more. And I've explored this quite a bit. And as I've learned, and I really wish I could credit who taught me this, but the challenge for me is, everyone looks at what I've done and goes, holy cow, you're at Big 4. You did a startup at 25, yada, 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 yada. And that's great. And I've done a lot of things and it's made some impact. And I've certainly been very blessed to hear that what I've said and how I've shown up in life has positively impacted certain people's lives, to make them believe. But the problem is you see what I've done. I see everything that I haven't done. And that is a much larger percentage of my life than anyone would really know.
And you're only 53 years young. You've just begun. Now, I want to say Chris Heuer is working on a new book, but I have decided that I've decided he has to write another 2 books. And so one of the things that I love the most on the show is telling people what their next book is going to be. So please look out for Chris's next 2 best-selling books. One is called Mechanism and Mindsets. Love that, by the way. That summarizes everything to a bloody T. And the other one, even better, is called The Noble Pursuit by Chris Heuer. That's the book you need to write.
Well, you can go and read the first chapter of The Noble Pursuit at thenoblepursuit.com, which will redirect you to my chapter. I've owned that domain for 23 years.
There you go. I mean, it's not like it's not like we just invented it today. The Noble Pursuit. Rather be noble than anything else. Now, if you want to know what Chris has been working on, he is first of all launching soon a new service to help scale-ups hearing what their customers aren't telling them. Essentially a customer conversation lab. I mean, this is the beauty of resilience and wisdom, is that you get to mentor and pass this down to people that come after you, to avoid them from not just, I don't want to, it's oversimplified to say making the same mistakes, but what you are looking to do is to turn those failures into wild successes, because every failure is just that at the end of the day. Lesson
learned. Yeah.
And also, here's some good news for everyone. If you liked him being on this show, you're going to love him going live regularly with his own show on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn audio or video?
Video, yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, listen, both of us, we have a face for radio, and yet we still choose to go live on video. So check out his new show. Obviously, the most important thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you are connected with him on LinkedIn. Also follow him on Instagram and the Twitter. It was amazing catching up with you. We will not do it in 10 years again. Maybe CES, maybe South by Southwest, and who knows, we might just go to a meetup and see Chuck Norris there.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
And I will be back tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you, Chris.
Joseph.
Amazing.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.